My friend Dave and I had been avid fishermen for as long as we could remember, and there was nothing we loved more than heading out into the open ocean to try our luck. The thrill of the chase, the fight with the mighty marlin, it was our passion. That's how we found ourselves miles off the coast of California, far from the shoreline and the concerns of everyday life. As we settled into our routine, the sun shining down on the calm waters, we noticed something peculiar in the distance. It appeared to be a lifeboat bobbing along the surface with no discernible signs of life aboard. Intrigued, we steered our boat towards the mysterious vessel. As we approached, it became clear that the lifeboat was indeed empty. Our hearts pounded with a mix of curiosity and unease. What had happened to the people who had once occupied it? We decided to investigate further, pulling the lifeboat alongside our own. Stepping aboard the abandoned vessel, we were struck by the eerie silence that enveloped it. The only sound was the gentle lapping of the waves against its hull. Strewn about the boat were clothing and personal effects, as though the occupants had vanished into thin air. We exchanged glances, each knowing that something was amiss. Returning to our boat, we radioed the Coast Guard to report our find. As we waited for their arrival, we couldn't help but speculate about the fate of those who had been in the lifeboat. The ocean was vast and unforgiving, and we knew that countless souls had been lost to its depths. The Coast Guard's investigation would later reveal that the lifeboat had originated from North Korea, thousands of miles away. The revelation sent a shiver down my spine as I tried to fathom the harrowing journey the boat's occupants must have endured. What had driven them to attempt such a perilous crossing? And more importantly, what had become of them? The events that transpired that day continued to haunt me long after our fishing trip. The image of the empty lifeboat adrift on an endless sea served as a chilling reminder of the desperate measures some would take to escape a life of oppression and despair. And as Dave and I returned to our usual fishing spots in the months that followed, we couldn't help but look out across the water, wondering what other secrets the ocean held. The mystery of the lifeboat would never be fully solved. No trace of its occupants was ever found, and their fate remained unknown. In the years that followed, the story would become a whispered legend among the local fishing community, a tale of desperation, hope, and the unfathomable depths of the human spirit. My days as a shrimp fisherman in the Gulf were filled with adventure, but nothing quite compared to the eerie experience I had while sailing off the coast of Louisiana in the 70s. It was a moonlit night, the kind that poets romanticize and painters immortalize, but there was something unsettling in the air that none of us aboard the boat could quite put our finger on. The sea had fallen into a dead calm, not a ripple or a swell in sight. As our boat idled, vibrations from the engine caused tiny ripples in the water, like whispers from the deep. The ocean transformed into a vast, never-ending mirror, reflecting the moonlight in all directions. As I stood on the deck, mesmerized by the otherworldly sight, I felt a sudden chill run down my spine. I had witnessed storms, waterspouts, and the chaos of a hurricane, but the absolute stillness of the sea that night was far more unsettling. It felt as if the world had stopped spinning, leaving us suspended in time. It wasn't long before strange things began to happen on the boat. Shadows flickered at the edge of our vision, and whispers echoed through the night air, as though the spirits of sailors long gone were attempting to communicate with us. The crew, a group of hardened fishermen, couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. As we continued our journey, the supernatural events intensified. We discovered objects mysteriously moved or missing, as though the unseen forces were trying to manipulate our surroundings. We started to question our sanity, wondering if the pressure of being so far from land was causing our minds to play tricks on us. But the strangest occurrence was yet to come. One night, as the dead calm persisted, we saw a visage in the distance, too far away to discern any details with the naked eye. I grabbed my binoculars and peered through the lenses, attempting to make sense of the apparition. As I focused, the ethereal figure appeared to be an old sailor, his face weathered by years at sea. The crew, frozen in fear, watched as the figure seemed to hover above the water's surface, an unnerving presence in the moonlight. The air around us grew colder, and a sense of dread settled over the boat. We could not determine if the apparition was an omen, a warning, or merely a figment of our collective imagination. Regardless, we decided to change our course, heading back toward the shore. The air of mystery that had hung over our boat seemed to lift as we put distance between us and the enigmatic calm of the sea. Though the supernatural events of that night are now a distant memory, the impact they had on me remains as vivid as the mirrored sea under the moonlight. I have spent years wondering about the old sailor, his presence lingering at the edge of my thoughts like a ghostly reminder of the unknown. The dead calm of the sea so far from the shore continues to haunt me, a reminder of the mysteries that lie beneath the surface and the secrets the ocean holds. As a seasoned U.S. merchant marine with 4 years under my belt, I've weathered storms that raged with a fury that could rival ancient gods, navigated choppy waters that tested our vessel's resilience, and encountered unpredictable situations that made my heart race. Yet nothing could have prepared me for that fateful day along the west coast of Mexico, when the earth trembled beneath us and terror gripped our ship in its unforgiving grasp. It was a seemingly ordinary afternoon, the sun blazing overhead, casting a golden shimmer on the azure waves. I was working through my noon duties on the bridge with my able seaman, AB, the rhythmic hum of the ship's engine providing a comforting background soundtrack. Little did we know that our lives were about to be thrown into turmoil. Without warning, the ship began to shake, the tremors so subtle at first that I dismissed them as the usual vibrations of a vessel in motion, but the shaking intensified, growing into a violent, pounding convulsion that seemed to threaten the very foundations of our mighty vessel. The intensity of the tremors conjured visions of a sea monster, wrapping its monstrous tentacles around our hull. The only way I can describe the sensation is to liken it to airplane turbulence, except slower and harder, as though some invisible force was trying to rip the ship apart. Fear gripped my heart, and I knew that we were experiencing something completely out of the ordinary. The tremors lasted only about 30 seconds, but they felt like an eternity. When the shaking finally subsided, my AB and I rushed to the bridge wings, our eyes scanning the water, searching for any sign of what might have caused the disturbance. A submerged container, perhaps? I frantically checked our position using every navigational tool at my disposal, my hands shaking as I feared that we had somehow scraped the ocean floor. If that were the case, as the ship's navigator, I'd be in serious trouble. The captain stormed onto the bridge, his face a mixture of confusion and anger, demanding to know what had happened. The engine room was called, and the crew began checking the void spaces, machinery spaces, and bilges. The chief mate summoned the bosun and the deck gang to sound the tanks, while phones and radios buzzed with anxious inquiries. For 15 agonizing minutes, we searched for answers, but nothing seemed amiss. The captain retreated to his office to report the incident to our superiors, and I braced myself for the worst. To my surprise, the captain returned 20 minutes later, a printout from the internet in hand. Apparently, just 15 miles from our position, a 7.5 magnitude earthquake had occurred beneath the ocean's surface. The relief that washed over me was indescribable. It felt as though a tremendous weight had been lifted from my shoulders. In the aftermath, we discovered that nothing had been damaged, and the crew could hardly contain their laughter as they recounted the tale. The captain, however, never let me forget the pale expression on my face when he had first entered the bridge that fateful day. That experience remains one of the most unforgettable and unnerving moments of my career. It serves as a reminder that no matter how well prepared we may be, the power of nature is humbling, and the ocean will forever hold its mysteries and secrets, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to test the courage and fortitude of those who dare to traverse its vast expanse. If these tales captivated your imagination, kindly grace the like, subscribe, and bell icons with a click. We replenish our story trove twice a day to keep you enthralled. Your presence has been truly appreciated. Thank you for lending us your ears, and we'll see you here again next time where the shadows whisper and nightmares beckons.